Okay, so the video that I am going to record for today is actually a request that I got from one of my classmates. Let me read the little note that came with it. Please read this as an audiobook. It is The Good Samurai by Ethan Smith. He's a sophomore in STEM, and he keeps leaving his browser open. Thank you. So, Ethan Smith, hopefully this will be a great lesson for you. Not to leave your browser open in STEM anymore. Here we go. The Good Samurai by Ethan Smith. The year was 1794 AD. The reigning Japanese Emperor Kanmu had ordered the Japanese capital to be moved to the Heian-ko territory. In order to accomplish this goal, the imperial palace treasures needed to be transported to this new area under heavy guard. So the emperor called open his elite class of samurai to do the job, defending against potential robbers and thieves on the road to Heian. Chapter 1. Order. Soldiers! Barked the ranking samurai officer. Halt! The samurai regiment came to a quick stop faster than any well-trained horse could stop at a master's call. Evidence of the samurai warriors' superior training to accomplish any given task. This particular section of the samurai army was protecting the palace's treasures as they were transported to the Heian territory. Why did we stop? Asked one of the samurai by the name of Chibi. I don't know, but be quiet, responded Akio, another samurai, Chibi's best and only friend. Akio and Chibi had known each other since their first day at the samurai training grounds. They were nervous and awkward there and had only really survived because of their bond and supportive nature towards each other. Over the years, they had grown very close and were now inseparable within the samurai ranks. Akio, quiet, whispered another samurai, or we'll be punished. Is there a problem? Interrogated the samurai officer, giving the soldier next to Chibi a death stare. Not at all, replied the samurai, fear in his eyes. No problem, sir. The samurai had every right to be scared of discipline from their officers. Since their first day of training, they had been ordered to follow a strict code, and any wrongdoing could result in severe punishments from humiliation to death. Soldiers, continued the officer, addressing the entire samurai division, there is a village in sight. When we enter, stop for nobody. Kill anyone in our way. Oh no, Akio said silently to Chibi. I'm at the front of the battalion. As the samurai reached the village, Akio could see hundreds of villagers going about their daily business, unaware of the samurai's presence for the moment. Within minutes, the first villager caught sight of the regiment and alerted the entire town. By the time the samurai made it to the village gate, everyone had completely cleared the road to make way for the samurai to pass, except for one person, who was sitting down on the side of the road directly in front of Akio. The man sitting there was a beggar who had been born without the sense of sight or hearing, and he had no idea the samurai were only a few yards away from him. The villagers watched in horror as the division of samurai continued to march forward, fearing the worst for the unfortunate man lying on the street. Soldiers! Barked the samurai officer. Halt! The village was completely silent, as if the world had just suddenly ceased to exist. Akio, the officer continued. Koroshimashu. Sorry, I pronounced that wrong. This was the most feared word in the Asian tongue, the Japanese kill order. Chapter 2. Goodbye. One more minute, Chibi said with a clear note of anxiety. Good luck. Thanks, replied Akio. I'll need it. Akio had been summoned to come before General Diashi, a proud and haughty man who was unafraid to disclose severe punishment for the samurai's disobedience. Akio was to see him because he had disobeyed the direct command from his officer. When Akio's officer had ordered him to kill the beggar on the street, he had, with much consideration, drawn and raised his katana, but he was unable to slash down on the defenseless soul. The officer then proceeded with grabbing Akio's sword and doing the job himself. Now Akio was here at the samurai headquarters, hours away from the killing, waiting with Chibi in one of the samurai's sleeping quarters, a simple tent made of dried animal skins. Chibi, Akio thought out loud, maybe I should run away. If I go to see the general, I will likely be sentenced to death for disobeying the officer's command. I would be alone here, responded Chibi. Then what do I do? You come with me. But then I would be wanted for desertion, which is punishable by death as well. What if the general doesn't decide to kill you, but just gives you a lesser punishment? Like humiliation? Torture? No thanks. Well, it's your choice, Chibi stated. There was a brief pause then. I am leaving. Chapter 3. Thought. The going away had been hard for both Akio and Chibi. They had known each other for such a long time that neither could imagine life without one another. Chibi had decided to stay, valuing his career as a samurai over the risk of desertion. Akio didn't blame Chibi for staying, but still wished Chibi was there just as badly. Akio decided his best chance at survival was to head into the forest next to the samurai headquarters with food that Chibi had helped him steal from the kitchen. Akio could then head towards a small village located at the foot of Mount He. Akio hoped to start a new life there at that village where the samurai would hopefully not find him. Akio was currently at the entrance to the forest at a perfect vantage point to spectate the entire samurai headquarters. He could see the tent where him and Chibi had slept, along with the general's tent. Akio was thinking hard. If he were to head back down to the base now, and silently return the stolen food to the kitchens, he could show up at the general's tent and receive his punishment. If he was not sentenced to death, then he would be able to bear the discipline and continue his life with Chibi as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. The man on the street was dead, killed cold blood for not moving out of the way of an army that he didn't know existed. Akio shook his head. There was no way he could go back, knowing that someone innocent had been killed just because Akio's officer had wanted it to happen. With a deep breath, Akio entered the forest. Chapter 4. Adventure. As Akio entered the forest, he could tell the journey would be a tough one. The canopy of trees overhead was so dense that Akio could not see a thing, and the thickets and underbrush were so numerous that he could barely step forward. Just as he began to plow forward, Akio froze. "Keep searching! He has to be here somewhere!" It was a samurai. They had come searching for him, and worse, Akio recognized the voice of the man who had just yelled. It was the officer who had killed the man on the street. In a panic, Akio tore into an all-out sprint, unfazed by the morbid cuts and slashes he was receiving to his body. Within a minute, Akio stopped to catch his breath, listening intently for any signs that he was followed. It seemed that Akio had gotten lucky, and the men had not hurt him, but he knew he must keep moving all the same, in case they accidentally found him while searching in the forest. After a good hour of crashing through the forest terrain, Akio came to a complete stop, all adrenaline drained from his body. Needing energy, Akio reached for the bag he was carrying his food in, but to his dismay it was not there. Frantically, Akio looked around and even retraced his last couple steps, but came up empty-handed. Feeling defeated, Akio promptly fell asleep. Chapter 5. Time Passing. Over the weeks that followed, Akio trudged through the relentless forest, surviving off any small amounts of food that he could get his hands on. At some points, the journey was so unbearable to Akio that he would suddenly stop, turn around, and head back the way he came, then decided it would not be worth it and continue toward the village. On unexpected occasions, Akio would find rare treats like a nest with some eggs or a running stream of clear water. But often Akio would go days without any food or water, desperate for any form of substance, from dried acorns or dead animal carcasses. One day, as he continued to trudge through the undergrowth, Akio saw the most beautiful sight he had ever laid eyes on. It was a mountain, not any mountain, Mount He, and even more pleasing, at the base of the mountain laid humble village. Akio nearly screamed with joy and relief, and with a couple of hours he was out of the forest, making a direct beeline towards the village. At the village entrance, Akio could only see a couple people wandering about their daily business, reminding Akio of the day with the man on the street. Just as he thought this thought, a man approached him from the street. "Chibi!" Chapter 6. Explanation. "Chibi, is that you?" Akio was dumbfounded. "But how? Why?" "Akio, calm down. It's me," Chibi responded. "We need to step inside. There is so much for me to explain. I'm so delighted to see you again." Chibi led Akio to a large house at the far back of the town, only a few yards from the base of the mountain. Chibi proceeded to open the door of the house and led the way through the seemingly endless amount of hallways until both of them reached a large open room. Sitting in the center of the room on a large chair was a man dressed in all purple, a majestic, royal, and expensive material. All of a sudden, Akio recognized the man. It was the new emperor, Kanmu. Quickly and instinctively, Akio dropped to his knees in a bow. "There is no need for that here," Emperor Kanmu said. "Now let me do some explaining." Over the next few hours, Chibi and the emperor explained everything that had happened to Akio, starting at the samurai headquarters. There, Akio had been summoned to come before General Dishi, although it was Emperor Kanmu in the tent. In the tent Akio was to visit. Kanmu had wanted to see Akio to inform him that he had heard what happened with the man on the street as the samurai regiment passed through the village, and that he was proud of Akio's bravery and wanted to congratulate him. But because of the miscommunication, Akio had feared the worst and ran away. The emperor had then sent a search party led by the officer who had killed the beggar out looking for Akio, then later arrested and jailed the officer after learning it was he who had committed the killing. "And now," the emperor continued, "I would like to offer you, brave Akio, to fill the rank that Diashi once held, a general of my samurai armies, commanding them with the same integrity that you exhibited at the village in the presence of a ranking officer, not willing to slay nor harm an innocent soul." "Lord Kanmu? Yes, I accept."